Welcome, welcome, welcome. Make fathers great again. I'm your host, Justin Austin. Welcome, brothers. First and foremost, all praise be to Yahweh. Hope everything's been going blessed with you, brothers. Just wanted to come to you today and just talk to you about treasure. I know I've spoken on this before, but can't speak on it enough. When Yahweh Shua says, what you treasure is where your heart is. The heart is the container of your center. So your center is moving to where your desire is. It's combining all of you to make sure you output enough to execute towards your desired goal. Whether it's getting out of bed and just getting to work, whether it's fulfilling Yahweh's will, whether it's loving your children, whether it's saving and stacking money, investments, video games, vices, whatever the case may be. How often do we evaluate what our desires are? What motivates us? Last night I was thinking to myself about understanding. And I was saying to myself, if I understood something, would that automatically make me want that thing? And then you got to think about what understanding is. It's not understanding is the realization of the meaning and essence of a thing. But due to the fact that you do know it doesn't mean that you want it, because it could be you understand something that's bad, that's inherently wrong, or whatever the case may be. You wouldn't want to do that. So understanding is a great thing. Desire along with understanding towards the right thing. Evaluating what we desire. And it's kind of easy to see if you really look at it. If you pull up your bank statement, it'll show you what you desire. If you pull up your calendar and look at the past year, if you write out things or put it on your phone, it'll show you what you desire, because that's what you accomplish. You accomplish what you desire, regardless if you say it's just the basics or regardless if it's good or bad. It's what you desire. It's what you put forth. We are what we do every day. Um, I believe it was Chris Rock who said, if someone calls you a crackhead for 20 years, most likely you're a crackhead. If you're doing something every day, that's who you are. If you're serving Yahweh every day, that's who you are. You're a servant of Yahweh. So, what we desire is what we execute. We desire to pay our bills, drive a car, drink soda, have coffee, whatever the case may be. So we put forth effort to be able to accomplish those things. What you desire, what your treasure is where your heart is. Now, Yahweh says we should, and when I say Yahweh, because Yahweh Shua is the word. I only speak the words of my Father. So when Yahweh Shua is speaking, he's speaking the words of Yahweh. When Yahweh says, set your heart on treasures in the kingdom that do not rust and cannot be stolen. So, treasuring the fruits of the Spirit, patience, understanding, love, kindness, gentleness, meekness, humility, long suffering. Now, getting understanding first of what those things are, what the fruits of the Spirit are, and then learning the value of them. Last night was reading, I believe it was not the problems with philosophy. Um, I was reading something by Bertrand Russell, and it was like the beginning of philosophy, but it was talking about the philosophy of education, and what he was speaking of in so many different ways is how we have to educate ourselves, and our environment educates us. So learning the fruits of the Spirit come from not only reading the scripture and getting the word directly in that sense. He was saying that the best education comes from something that is lived out. He was giving the example of teaching a kid what a hat is. So I'll demonstrate. Um, I don't know where my hat is. Never mind. But anyways, so he was trying to demonstrate when a mother is teaching a child what a hat is, she'll put the hat on and say, "This is a hat," and she may even put the hat on the child. So the child not only understands that the object is a hat, the child actually understands the purpose of a hat. So you're not only teaching the definition of the object, but you're also showing the purpose and the value of it. When we teach something, say just reading the word, we're learning the definition or we're absorbing something. But when we start to live out the word, then we grasp the understanding and the essence of it. And that's true education. Learning theory, learning words, and things of that nature is definitely paramount. But learning the action, learning the purpose, learning the value, that's how you learn to treasure. When you put forth patience and you understand what patience is, the book definition or the etymology and the root of it is one thing. But when you live out patience, when Yahweh puts you in that school where the lesson is taught, then you understand the value and the essence of patience. When you listen to that voice and it starts to really speak louder and you respond to it and it speaks louder, and then you guys are in cohesion with one another, that internal voice, that's because you've developed the relationship. The greatest thing about the development of a child, especially back in the day, was the ability to interact with adults in the settings of utility. Now, children definitely had minded their own place, but when it came to the settings of utility, children were involved because they were to become of value as well. They were supposed to increase their value, i.e., a young man going into the fields with his father or going into the marketplace, i.e., a young lady going into the marketplace with her mother or learning certain things within the household, household management. So, with that being said, if we are to treasure anything, we are to treasure the fruits of the Spirit. We have to acknowledge that we didn't grow up understanding, implementing, activating, actuating the fruits of the Spirit as much as we should, with the conscious intent, being intentional and deliberate about it. So now, as current believers, we are called to be more intentional and deliberate. And when Yahweh says, treasure the things that can't be stolen or cannot rust, and where your treasure is where your heart is, then let's be intentional and deliberate about first, what are the fruits of the Spirit, understanding their definitions, and then putting them in place so they can actually be understood thoroughly and then activated and then a part of your character. This is easier said than done. Our environments are always not conducive to sharing the fruits of the Spirit. So that's why it has to be so intentional and deliberate. One of the things that the philosopher spoke about in the book that I was reading last night, and I believe it was Bertrand Russell, and he said that the instruction that's given, if it's not in cohesion with the life that's being lived, then it's not really being understood and confusion lies. And what does Yahweh say? Do not exasperate your children. And fathers, do not exasperate your sons. So, and that means frustrate them. So if you're telling a child a hat is something that you put on this way, but every time the child sees you, you have the hat on backwards, that's just confusion. That's the simplest way to give it to you. We teach something one way, and then when the child sees it lived out, it's lived out backwards. That confusion persists within the child, disturbs them, and does not provide understanding, but provides confusion. Confusion leads to frustration. Frustration leads to anger, depression, and more other things. That's why the education of our youth is so important. We need to teach them to understand what their container is, their mind, their heart, their container, their center of self. We need to help them input the word of Yahweh into that container and then live it out. The best way to deposit the word of Yahweh is to first read it, repeat it, love it, study it, understand it, listen to his word, the gospel, the song, the melodies. Let those. So music is one of the fastest ways to download things to the spirit. So definitely get the worship music. But we gotta teach them about the container. Then we need to help them download the word of Yahweh. But then we need to have a setting that is conducive to the word of Yahweh for them to be able to live it out. When you take your children to church on Sunday and they hear the word and they see you hearing the word, and then you guys leave and then you go home and the word is not lived in your home, that's not confusing? That's not frustrating to a child? Do you think that the child has high value of hold you in high value when it comes to the word of Yahweh, when it comes to a relationship with Yahweh? If they see you going to church and then becoming someone else outside of that, the way you talk to people in church, you don't ever talk in your home that way, or when you're on the phone, or when you're at work, or when you're around your friends, it's showing that you don't treasure the fruits of the Spirit. It's showing that you don't treasure the word of Yahweh. And how can we cause the youth to treasure the word of Yahweh if we're not doing it ourselves, especially in our home? And that was one of the biggest things this guy was speaking about, how education is delivered to the youth inside the home, inside the church, inside the schoolhouse, inside the community. A community raises a child because a community creates the culture. First delivered from the mother, and then the father, the siblings, the extended family, and the community around. This is the way it goes. A child doesn't know what a hat is until he sees one, until it's explained to him, until it's used in front of him. We are the teachers. What are we teaching? If we only can do what we know, what do we know? If our heart will be where we do, if our heart will be where our desire is, where our treasure is, then shouldn't we make sure what we treasure is of high value based on the truth, which is Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shua Messiah? A lot to take in. Just wanted to share it. Yahweh Shua is always just dropping more knowledge on me. Just want to share it with the brothers. Be blessed, love, take care of the family. For I will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children, and the hearts of the children back to the father, or I will smite the earth with destruction. Malachi 4:6. Let's turn our hearts back, make fathers great again. All praise be to Yahweh.